Hi people, how you doing? I hope you're doing okay. Today in our class, our subject is assessment. And of course, before we start our class, you already know what to do. So let's start. First of all, we have to talk about the definition of assessment. We can say that assessment is a process of systematically gathering information as part of an evaluation. So we could say that an assessment is a piece of evaluation. We have evaluation in an upper level and assessment in a lower level. Assessment is more specific, whilst evaluation is more general. As we can see here in the image, we have the TOEFL. It's a test to check the proficiency in English language. It's a very common test people do here in Brazil. So it's interesting for you to do proficiency test in English to check how good you are. Now we will talk about different types of assessment. We will start with written tests. And written tests are tests that are administered on paper or a computer. And in some tests is allowed a cheat sheet. So, for instance, if you study chemistry, you can have the table for you, the periodic table for you to check some information that is not necessary to keep in your mind. You can check outside it. We see here in the image, there's a girl doing a written test, and it's very common to have this posture in a written test. So put the hand in your hair, because some of these tests they take too long, like for instance 5 hours. So there's a moment you get really tired of doing the same thing. Another type of test we can talk is the oral exam. In the oral exam, the examiner poses questions to the student in a spoken form. It's a type of test that is also used to avoid the test being ghostwritten by an expert. So, for example, if you do a written test and you have to send this test like we do now in these days, in these times. Some people can ask help for somebody, or even some people can send the test to another person to do it. This is why oral exam is important to check if the student who wrote a test is the same one who is speaking about it. So it's a way to try to avoid the test being done by a ghost writer. Here we have the image from the movie Transporting, where the character Bud is preparing himself to take part in an oral exam. We will talk about this oral exam later in the class. Another type of test we can talk about is the group test. So it consists of tests that can be administered to a large group of people. Most of the times they are standardized tests for them. And it's not easy to do group tests because people are different, People have different goals when we talk about education. Some students want to do the best, other students just want to be the average, and another student doesn't care at all. So it's really difficult to deal with a group test. Here in the image, as we're talking about group, I brought you here the guys from Slipknot. Slipknot is a band. They have 9 members, and just to prove the point that working group is very hard, they had many stories about fights, physical fights, arguments, disagreements, but they stay, the first incarnation of the band stayed together for 10 years, around 10 years, and then they had change of personnel. A member died, but I would like to talk to you that it's not easy to do work in group. And I make a question to you. Do you take part in any group work, group studying? How do you deal doing tests, doing work in groups? Talking about assessment, it's really important, I would say it's essential even, to talk about cheating. So, first of all, what's the definition of cheating? So, cheating means getting academic credit in a way that is dishonest, disrespectful, irresponsible, untrustworthy, or unfair. And when we discuss about cheating, it's important to talk that the most important thing is because when a student cheats on a test, actually he's cheating on him or herself. It's like doing crossword puzzles and go at the back of the magazine and check the answers and then put the right answers after watch them. And here we have the image of the character Mr. Bean. He's a comic character. Tried to cheat on a test, and in this situation he is not very successful. And actually the most important to the student is to challenge him or herself. So when you cheat, you don't challenge yourself because you are using the knowledge of other people. So it's important for you to know that despite all the questions can be done by people who cheat on tests, it doesn't help you at all in the process of learning. As we were talking about Mr. Bean, I bring you here more information about this cultural element. And Mr. Bean is a British sitcom created by Rowan Atkinson and Richard Curtis. Rowan Atkinson is the guy who made the character, who plays the character Mr. Bean. And it's a very interesting sitcom because most of the time they don't have dialogues, spoken words. It's more a silent type of comedy with more of situation comedy and things like that. And used to be very famous all around the world and show a little bit of the British humor that it's very peculiar. And Mr. Bean is one of the representatives of this specific type of British humor. As we were talking about oral exam before, I show you an image of this character in an oral exam, in an interview. And this character is part of a move named transpotting. Transpotting was a move released in 1996. It was directed by Danny Boyle, and its main actor was Ewan McGregor. And this movie talks about some young dudes who live the young life, typical young life, but they go a little deep into drug using, into go riots on the streets, and do things that are kind of critical to do in that age. And this movie is a movie that shows a little bit how young people at the time in England, they deal with the issues in life. Hi people, hope you're doing fine. So, in our activity today, I ask you to watch this video of the character Spud in the movie Trainspotting. He is doing an oral test, and I want you to tell me if he was successful or not, and if you think he will be approved. And I want you also to tell me what are the tips for doing a good oral test. So give me your answers.